Just checking in, just let you. Welcome and thank you for joining us on another of our series of YPN webinars. That's webinars brought to you by Your Property Network magazine. If you're looking for a way to create a substantial, potentially job-replacing property income, then you're definitely in the right place this evening. Tonight, we'll be joined by a great friend to YPN magazine, Rick Gannon, and we're going to be discussing making life-changing returns from property using HMOs. My name's George Haynes. Before we start, it's always great just to make sure that the system's working properly and that you can all hear us okay. So if you take a look to the right-hand side of your screen, you'll see the webinar control panel. It has a chat box. If you could just pop a couple of notes in there to maybe say where you are, where you're listening in from, if you've got any HMOs at the moment, gives us a bit of an idea of your sort of level of experience or where you're investing geographically, and it just lets us know that the system's working okay and that you can hear us all right. So we've got Phil in Bristol. We've got Gary, he hasn't said where he's investing, but evening Gary. Lee, who's messaged in to say evening to me and Rick. James from Scarborough. We've got May, I hope I'm saying that right, May in Cardiff. We've got Paul up in North Wales. Amin, looking to get into HMOs in London, just starting out. We've got Emma in Liverpool. We've got Trevor in York. We've got Paul, says he's looking for his first HMO. Helen in West Yorkshire, no HMOs yet. May saying she's got 2 HMOs. So you know, a bit of a mixture of people moving into this sort of area of property investing. That's great to hear. So making the most out of tonight's webinar, it's really important that you stay focused in with us over the next hour or two, since you have committed your time this evening. We suggest you maybe switch off your phone, shut down all the other tabs on your browser and so forth. Grab yourself a pen and paper and make sure you take plenty of notes. The important thing is that to get the most out of it, you do need to interact with us and let us know. So if we use an acronym you don't understand, or you want any points clarifying as we go through, then just type your questions into the chat box that you've used there, just to let us know where you're listening in from. And I'll pass them on to Rick as we go along, and we'll definitely try and fit a bit of Q&A in at the end if there's time. So my name's George Haynes. It gives me great pleasure to introduce tonight's guest. He's a great friend to YPN magazine and regular HMO contributor. Evening, Rick.
Good evening, George. How are you?
I'm good. You?
Yes, very well, thank you. Enjoying the nice, hot, sunny weather while it lasts.
Right, indeed. Rick, so HMOs, I know it's a big passion of yours, and I know we've got a lot of ground to cover this evening. So I'll just say a couple of quick words about the magazine, because I know that there's some people on the call who may not have come across us before. YPN is for people who are investing in residential property in the UK. We've been going since 2008. We publish just over 12,000 copies a month that are based around case studies and example deals. We try and keep it as practical as possible. Now, one of the really great strategies that we cover on a monthly basis is investment in multi-lets and HMOs, which, as I said, Rick has regularly contributed to the magazine with case studies and examples of some of his deals. So really what I want to do is just say to Rick that, you know, really, I know you've got so much to cram in. Should we take it away?
Yes, let's do it. I hope everybody can hear us okay. If everybody could just tell me that they can see the screen, that would be great, so we don't have any problems moving forward. So I should have a nice piece of toast on your screen at the moment. So if people could just tell me that. Helen's saying yes, that's great. So, and of course you can all hear us as well. Yeah, loads of people coming in with yes, lovely. So folks, we have got we're almost oversubscribed on tonight's webinar, which is no surprise because these webinars are very popular. But what we do like to do is keep them as interactive as we possibly can. So if you have any questions, what I'd sort of encourage you to do is to type them in the question box, and we'll get around to the questions when we do the question and answer session. So please try and, if you think about them, put them in straight away, and we can go back and we can revisit them later. So I'm going to go straight in and sort of talk to you about my favorite property investing strategy, which indeed is HMOs, and how to create life-changing returns from using HMOs. So sort of over the years, single let property has kind of been the mainstay of traditional buy-to-let portfolios, and people were buying single let houses, putting families in them, waiting for the growth in the market to go up and hopefully make some profit along the way as well. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with a good solid bread and butter deal in the long run. However, single lets are not likely going to change your life over the next 12 months. So that's why we invest in what we call HMOs. So what is a HMO? Well, a HMO stands for a house in multiple occupation, or house of multiple occupation. And you might be confused because, different people use different terminologies and a little bit of different language, but that's kind of what it means. So we've got licensable HMOs, and as we stand here or sit here now today, a licensable HMO means it's a house that's occupied by 5 or more people over 3 or more floors. Now that may change going forwards, but I don't want to confuse anybody tonight. So the legislation at the moment for a mandatory HMO license is 5 or more people over 3 or more floors. And sometimes we can call them perhaps, a multi-let property as well. So a HMO generally is 3 people from 2 separate families with shared facilities. So that is a HMO. Licensing and planning is slightly different, and we'll cover that a little bit later. So 4 main tenant profiles that we look at when we look for populating our HMOs. So these are the main tenant demographics that we look for. So we look for students. So if your property that you're looking for, or the area of investment you're looking into, has a university, a relatively good university that's always got a good population of students, maybe a university is growing, and that would mean obviously you'd look for probably students in your HMOs. But if the area is overpopulated, and maybe there are lots of other people doing student lets in your area as well, then that might open up a really good market for you to do professional HMOs, so young professionals or working sharers. So personally, we target young professionals as our main demographic because of exactly that. So we are investing in an area that has got a very high population of students, which also means there's a high population of student landlords as well. So we opened up a market for young professionals, and it works really well for us. Then we've got working sharers. So the difference between a young professional and a working sharer would be a young professional I would class as somebody that has left university, they've got a degree, and now they're in their first year of a professional position. Whereas a working sharer, well, that's somebody that maybe doesn't have a university education, but they've got what we call maybe a blue collar job. So maybe they would be working as a carer in the care industry, or working in factories on the line, etc. So we target both of those markets. And of course, then we've got local housing authority tenants. Local housing authority tenants would be people that are claiming housing benefit for whatever reason. That might mean that they potentially will be in the house pretty much most of the day. So it could cause issues regarding bills, etc., being a little bit higher. There are a couple of benefits with local housing authority by means of you would get your rent paid directly most of the time, but I don't think going into local housing authority would be a good strategy for new investors because they can potentially be a lot more work than the other tenant profiles. So, they've all got their good and they're bad. Students come with guarantors. With a student, you would be looking at occupation for, I would say, at least 10, probably 11 months out of the year. Then you've got a bit of a break where they go away and you can go back into the property and decorate it. Students are exempt from council tax. And when you've got a large portfolio like we have, our council tax bill is quite considerable. So if we decided to go down the student market, it would be probably a lot cheaper for us. However, students, that's the good stuff. The bad stuff is they like to party. You can become mum and dad. Because they're not used to living away from home. So you can sort of, take them under your wing, and they may look at you as solving all of their problems. Young professionals are great. The rent's always in the bank. There's never any issue with that, but they do tend to move around a lot quicker. and a lot more often, should I say, than the student. So our young professionals probably stay, well, it's actually gone up now, but it's between sort of 8 to 10 months. So we do tend to have a bit of a shift around, because a lot of young professionals that are on graduate schemes will tend to work on 6-month placements. So they'll go to a unit and then they'll be moved 6 months later. So then we'd be looking to replenish the room with somebody else. Working sharers. Now, working sharers, we have a very large Eastern European tenant profile and tenant database. So our Eastern European tenants, I don't really have anything bad to say about them, because they make absolutely fantastic tenants. They're hardworking people and they pay their rent on time and very clean and tidy. So, but again, with the working demographic, people do change jobs sometimes, which means that maybe we do have a faster turnover. So that's the kind of demographic of tenants that we look for. What I want to do now is just show you a little bit of a comparison of single let properties versus multi-let properties, and show you really what the difference is to us, and what the pros and the cons are. So with a single let property, the good things about them are there are quite a few lower barriers of entry. When I say barriers of entry, I mean often they're smaller, which means that they're cheaper, which means that they're easier to finance, and the loans that you need are more straightforward. So you'd get a traditional buy-to-let mortgage as opposed to anything that's a little bit more complicated. They tend to be lower maintenance, although they do need regular inspections and they do need to be maintained, to a habitable standard. But they're generally lower maintenance because the footfall and the traffic is a lot less in a single let property, because we're just going to be putting one family in there as opposed to a group of people. And, sometimes with a single let property, if you find the right tenant, they can stay for years and years. And we've got tenants that have been with us in our single let properties for, 10 years plus. And, we've put here that some people, and I know that, some people like to stay for forever. They generally don't want to move. So that's the great stuff. But the cons against single let property are, and this is the big one, it's that you get much less income, because you're renting as a single let rather than a multi let, so the income stream is going to be a lot less attractive. And if your tenants don't stay, then you've got a void for the whole property. So if your tenant moves, or if they don't pay their rent, then that property is void until you put somebody else in there. So that means it's going to lose money straight away. So there really is no middle ground. Now with a multi-let property, if you look at the comparison and the difference here, well, there's potential for massive profits and the opportunities to become more creative when you actually buy the deal. So we can obtain the property with a traditional purchase, which is absolutely fine, or we can potentially take over the property on, I'm sure lots of people would have heard of rent to rent and purchase lease options and similar things. So you don't always need to buy the property. So there's lots of different strategies that we can use in order to get hold of the deal. And the cons, well, they are much more hands-on, and I'm very transparent with my teaching and my training, and I do tell people, look, we're not going to tell you that this is, really easy, because in the first 12 months of my investing, I probably worked harder than I had ever worked before. But after that 12 months, everything became easy because we put the systems in place and we did everything the right way in order to safeguard our business moving forward. So in the beginning, you would expect to work probably quite hard, because HMOs in terms of management and setting up can be quite time consuming. But once you've done it, you can hopefully then set it and forget it, so do all the hard work at the beginning, then hopefully reap the rewards going forwards. And with a HMO, the purchase price might be higher, even if it's the same house, because of, barriers of entry that we say. So there may be planning issues, there may be licensing issues that you have to jump through hoops to get. So once the properties have got those, and if you're buying an existing HMO, then potentially there's a chance that you might have to pay a higher premium in order to get hold of it. And sometimes they can be quite complex to finance, but there are lots of mortgage specialists in and around that can help you do that. But it's very important we do get the correct product when we go into HMOs. So let's look at some comparisons. So these are the great things about HMOs. So on the left-hand side, you can see here that we've got a comparison of a 4-bedroom single-let property. So in our area, and of course I can only really base this in the area that we are at the moment, the rent for a 4-bedroom single-let property is around about £950 a month. And that's quite good. It's a good price, and we are in a quite high demand area. And then the bills on a single let property, and if you look at a mortgage at about a 70% loan to value, so that means that you would have to put 30% deposit down. You may be able to get it at 75% or perhaps even higher, but we don't like to become too leveraged. So 70% loan to value is the example that we're using tonight. So the mortgage at that would be £583.33. The insurance for the property is likely to be £25 a month or similar. And if you want to put your property under management, and a lot of people choose to do that, then we allow £95 a month for management fees, which is usually about 10%, which is about right for the area that we are. And voids, we do allow 10% for voids, and it's really important that we do that because sometimes a property is void. So that's £95. Maintenance, we allow 5% for maintenance, which comes in at £50. And then we've got gas and electric checks, your annual safety checks, which would approximately come to about £10 a month. So that, all taken into consideration, would bring in a net cash flow, so a net profit, if you like, of £91 a month. Now, I'd like a bit of feedback here, folks. So does anybody think that's a good deal? Give me some feedback. Give me some yeses or some nos or whatever you like, but keep it clean. Trevor's saying no, he doesn't think it's a good deal. Helen saying not really. Ooh, not really. On the fence there, Helen. Ashley's saying no. Steve saying rubbish. Sayi, I'm sorry if that doesn't pronounce your name properly, but saying yes, he thinks that's a good deal. Okay, so we've got a lot of people on tonight. I can't go through them all, but let's look at the comparison. Now, this is going to be the same property. Now, I know it says 5 bedrooms. We'll talk about that in a second, but the same property. Okay, and if we're going to buy it, then it's going to be almost an identical mortgage, but it would be on the correct HMO product. Now, all we're going to do on this is change one of the communal rooms into a bedroom. So if we could buy a house, it's already got 4 bedrooms, and potentially downstairs it's got a living room, a dining room, and a good sized kitchen. So, we've got a communal room, because we can turn the dining room into the living room, or we can turn the dining room into a bedroom, and we've got a good kitchen. So all we need to do is repurpose one of the rooms downstairs to turn it into a 5-bedroom multi-let property. And the cost of that is going to be quite negligible downstairs. We need to be fire compliant, and we need to do it in connection with the local council's amenity standards. But as an example, this is generally what we do. So we've created an extra bedroom. Now, if we look at this, the rent now is shot up from £950 a month to £2,125 a month because we're selling each individual bedroom. The bills are going to be the same. Sorry, the mortgage is going to be the same. It's the same house, but we do need to stipulate when we buy the property that, we make sure that we tell the mortgage provider exactly what we're doing and we get the correct product. That's really important. The bills now, we do all-inclusive HMOs. So we pay the electric, the council tax, the gas, the water, the TV license for the communal room, and the Wi-Fi. So that comes to about £475 a month with council tax. Now, we've added council tax on top of that because for us, we do professional properties, not student lets. Management would be, if we chose to put it under management, and it's only fair we've got the same comparison, would be about £200 a month. Voids, about £100 a month. Maintenance the same, and gas and electric checks are going to be the same. So that gives us a net cash flow of £656 a month on the same property. Now, who thinks that's a better deal? Give me some more feedback, folks. don't forget, this is an example that's, on the same property. So we're looking at a 4-bedroom, and we're changing one of the rooms downstairs to turn it into a 5-bedroom. So yes, much better, indeed so, better deal, better, nice deal, yay, yes. Okay, so you can understand now, why we invest in HMOs as opposed to single lets. And the great thing is as well, if the property goes up in value over the years, then that's icing on the cake. But the one thing that we don't do is we don't buy for a guaranteed growth on the property, because we can't predict the future. We don't know what's going to happen. But if it does go up, even better, because then, we've got equity in the property as well that we can either refinance if we choose to, or when we come to sell the portfolio, it's going to make us a little bit more profit. Okay, so we're looking at the massive returns from HMOs. I mean, if you had a portfolio of single let properties, each creating £100 per month, then you're going to need 50 properties to replace an income of £50,000. Now that's huge, and that's going to take quite a long time, to put together if you're going to be able to do it, because 50 properties, is an awful lot of deposits and an awful lot of property to find. But with multi-let properties, then of course, it's a lot easier and it's a lot more efficient. So we've got some great case studies coming up in a second. Keep posting your questions. I can see lots of questions coming in, so that's great. I'm going to give you some examples now of how we can make better profit from working with HMOs. So a little bit about me. So who is this guy talking at you from the computer screen? So my name is Rick Gannon, and I've been investing in property since 1997. I became what we call an accidental landlord. So back in the day, back in 1997, I had a property and it was in Nottingham, and I was working in the Nottingham area at the time, and I got promoted and we needed to move. And we put our house on the market, and unfortunately, we weren't able to sell it at the time. That was a new build house, so we bought it from plan, and the property shot up really, really, really quickly in that area, almost within 6 months. So it sort of went up by about £50,000, but we couldn't sell it. So we decided to put the property on the market as a let, and we put it under management. So we were fortunate enough at the time, myself and my wife, that we both had good jobs, so we were able to get a second mortgage. It wasn't such an issue then. Things have changed slightly now with stress testing, but back then it was quite easy. So we got a second mortgage, rented our first house out, and bought a second property. So then really by default we became landlords accidentally, and that kind of worked out for us, and we had that property rented for a couple of years and everything was fine. And then I decided to I bought a pub. So I had a bit of a bucket list really, and I'm sure that lots of you tonight have got bucket lists, and I think it's really important that you've got that goal. We call them vision boards, but it's the same thing. What do you want to achieve in your life? And I had this bucket list that I wanted to join the army when I left school. I wanted to be a police officer. I wanted to be a pub landlord. I wanted to own a chain of pubs. And then other things sort of added to it, over the years. So we went out and we bought a pub. We bought this pub on a lease for 3 years. Then after the 3 years, we did really well. The owner of the pub said to me, well, you know what? I want to sell it to you. And he offered us a great price, but we couldn't afford it at the time. So we did a deal together whereby back then, it was easy then, he lent us the deposit and we bought the pub, paid him back, everything was fine, and we still own that pub today, and this is, in 1997. So we still got this pub, it still trades as a pub. I don't run it myself, it's under management, but I still own the building. And the story with this really is that one pub led us to having a chain of pubs. We had pubs, nightclubs, and gastro pubs and restaurants, a little chain of 6, which is great, did really well. And then a big company came to me called Enterprise Inns, and they offered to buy 2 of the pubs off me, and they offered me over £1 million for the 2 of the pubs. And I said, you know what? Sounds like a great idea. Let's do the deal, because it was a great profit for me back then. So we kept one of the pubs, we closed 2 because they weren't very profitable, and we sold the rest on. So then I was at a little bit of a loss. So I went back to my bucket list, I went back to my vision board, And of course, I hadn't ticked the police officer off the list yet. So I applied to join the police and I got in. And surprisingly, because I didn't think I would, I became a police officer and I stayed firstly in West Midlands Police, policing in and around Birmingham as an operational response officer. I then passed my sergeant's exams and came over to Worcester and transferred to West Mercia and did about 2, maybe 3 years or so before I took early retirement. So the story is with this that I was on a night shift and it was February. It was about sort of 3 o'clock in the morning and I was at a really horrible job. And it was the job where, unfortunately, somebody had passed away and they died. And as a sergeant, it was my job to go and inspect the deceased body to make sure there was no foul play. Not a nice topic, but unfortunately it was something that we had to do. I've done it many, many times. It wasn't new to me, but never very good. And this poor chappie had been sitting on his couch. He passed away on his couch. He was wearing his dressing gown and he'd been there for quite some time and it wasn't very nice. And as you can imagine, my energy levels at that point were really, really low because nobody really wants to deal with that kind of thing, although some people just have to do it. So I went home after my night shift feeling pretty low. And I came home and went into my daughter's bedroom to sort of say good morning to her and, good night really for me. And she was fine. She was all happy. And I went into my son's room and I said, "Hi, Ben, how are you?" And Ben was I think he was about 8 or so. No, sort of about 10 actually at the time. And he said, "I'm not very good, Dad. I haven't been sleeping very well." And I said, "Well, what's the matter?" And Ben said to me, "I want to know why I can't play football like the rest of my friends." And you see, Ben was born almost 4 months prematurely, and he's got a condition called quadriplegic cerebral palsy, which meant that basically he was brain damaged from birth, and it means that he can't use his legs at all. So he's wheelchair bound. So he's very aware and very conscious that he's different than his peers. It doesn't affect his brain and the way that he can come across and present himself, but it just means that he's not mobile. And when he said that to me, I just didn't know how to answer him. It was like a shovel hitting me in the face. And it was quite an emotional moment. So we both had a little cry together. We both had a little cuddle. And I obviously told Ben, "Look, everything's fine. We'll make this work for you." And I left it at that, really, feeling even worse now. I'd already had a bad night and it's just got a whole lot worse. So I went to bed. And I got up probably about 11 o'clock. I didn't sleep very well. And I came downstairs into the house and spoke to my wife, Lorraine. And I said, this isn't a game. We owe it to our family to do the best that we possibly can for them. So we need to make some changes. I need to leave the police now because I'm working shifts. I'm not home at all. I don't see the family. There's no way that I can help and grow my child's development whilst I'm in the police. So we decided to go back into property because it's always been good to us in the past. So we went back out, re-educated ourselves and became HMO investors, and then did exceptionally well. I took a career break from the police initially for 18 months. But the first 6 months of me investing in HMOs, I doubled my police income, which meant that I didn't have to work as the police officer anymore. So I resigned 6 months later and became a full-time property investor. I then got involved with Simon Zicci, and a lot of you have heard of Simon, became a coach and a mentor for his program, and then went on to develop my own mentoring program and my own coaching program. And the great bit is sort of the bit of the moral of the story is that 12 months after having that conversation with my son, I with help from my son, developed and founded Worcester's very first disabled football club for children. So now Ben can play football, and so can 4 other kids with similar disabilities. So we've got a team, it's called Worcester Wizards, and we play in the Birmingham Development League. So when we talk about making a difference, without being cliched, that was my goal. We set out to help Ben in his development, and we achieved that very, very quickly by being very driven and being very focused on what we actually wanted to do. So that's a bit about my story, folks. Sorry, I didn't want to bore you, but it's really important that you understand where I've come from and what my motivation was, to do what we've done, and then now to help you guys and girls to share that knowledge and pay it forward. So hopefully you can do the same. So I hope that was okay. People are saying thank you, Rick. Brilliant story. Good. I mean, it is a very, very emotive story to me, and I do, still get quite emotional when I tell it because I can still remember the day as if it was yesterday. But I think, we've all got 24 hours in the day, and it really is up to us how we use that to our benefit because, we're only here once, and we've got to make it count. So, okay, great, right. So let's move on. So enough about me. Let's have a look. My very, very first HMO deal. So this was actually the very, very first deal that I did. Excuse me a second, folks. I'm just going to take a very quick slurp of water because I've been talking for a while. Just bear with me just 1 second. That's the great thing about live webinars, folks. It's absolutely live. Sometimes I do need to just take a little bit of a break and just take a slurp of water. Okay, so this was the very first HMO that I ever bought, and this was in Worcester, which is my investing area prior to Article 4 being introduced into Worcester. And Article 4 we'll talk about a little bit later. It's about planning permission. So we became educated, myself and my wife, and we said, right, this is great. I love this strategy. We can do this. So we sourced the property from landlord letters, and we were also looking on Rightmove and Zoopla. So we had all the marketing strategies out there, and we saw this property. This was on the open market with an estate agent, and it was on the market for 190,000 or thereabouts. And it wasn't a HMO; it was just a normal property. But the bad thing about this, it was situated right in front of Worcester City Football Club. And so it wasn't in a particularly good area because I don't know if anybody lives anywhere near stadiums or football clubs. It gets very busy and very noisy during match days and even practice days at sometimes. And then when they're not using the club for football, they put concerts and stadiums and things on there as well, for music. So it wasn't in a particularly great area, and you could actually go upstairs, look out the bedroom window and see Worcester City Club. It was that close. It was literally in the back garden. But didn't put me off. So we bought the property. We put an offer in, for £185,000, and we negotiated and got the price down to 187. Now, not such a good deal in terms of below market value, but I'll come on to that in a second because we kind of knew that we were buying a great house here. So it was a true 5-bedroom property. It had 2 loft conversions already done, and downstairs there was a living room, a dining room, and a kitchen. So all we had to do to make it into a 6-bedroom property was put a bed and some furniture and some fire safety into what was the living room, and then we could turn that into a bedroom. So we did that, and it wasn't particularly expensive to do that. So then we decided that we were going to do all of this. We put the offer in, we got it accepted, and then we realised we had no money. And I'm sure that loads of you tonight can probably resonate with that. We thought, oh, hang on, how are we going to fund this? So Lorraine and I approached a family member, and the family member had just retired and had a gratuity. So he had his pension lump sum of about £80,000. That was sat in the bank, and it was literally doing nothing. He wasn't getting much on it at all as a return. So we approached the family member and we said, look, we've always been good at property. We've done it before. We're just about to invest into a new strategy for us called HMOs. We know it's going to work. We know it's going to be great. How about you would come into this property with us and buy it with us as a joint venture partner? So they said yes, and we bought it together. So our joint venture partner put all of the money in for this deal and paid for the whole amount of the deposit. Now, bearing in mind here, I think I'm going to cover this quite quickly. Steve's asking, hope you don't mind me asking, but why would the JV partner put all the money in with someone who'd never done a HMO before? Because we had told them, and we not convinced them, but we had several meetings. It wasn't over the phone. It didn't happen very quickly. It was over a period of weeks, but it was because we'd educated ourselves and we were quite knowledgeable anyway with property. So they had vision with us with the property that we'd done before with the single lets, and they bought into us, and they gave us all the money for the refurb and the purchase. We bought it in joint names, so it was all done properly, and the deal was that I managed and sourced the tenants, and we both get 50% of the net profit and 50% of any of the capital growth moving forwards. Now, that's me on the left on the photo. I'm shaking hands with the vendor's son, who was living at the property at the time as well. went through a little phase back then of taking photographs of all the deals that I did, and I got too many, so I didn't do them after that. So here's the numbers. So we bought the property for £187,000. We got it on a 75% loan to value mortgage. We needed £46,750 as a deposit. The refurb back then was only £20,000. Now, I don't think we could do that now for that price. I'm almost sure we couldn't, but that's to get the property completely compliant and safe, with fire safety and everything that we needed to do in order to get a license for Worcester for that area. So it cost us £20,000 for the refurb. Back then, stamp duty wasn't particularly expensive, really, not like it is now. So the stamp duty was £1,500, and it was £1,000 in legals. And so the total joint venture money in from our family member was £69,250. So 6 rooms, remember, and they were averaging then at £361 a room as an average for the whole house, which brought in a gross income of £2,166. So with the voids and the maintenance that I mentioned earlier, so we take off £324.90. Now, if we don't have voids, and if the property doesn't really need that much maintenance because we did such a good refurb, then that's great. It means we're making more money every month. But if we do need to dip into it, the deal still works. So that's why we always factor 15% for voids and maintenance. So then we've got the mortgage and all the bits and bobs and all the bills of £1,000 a month. So the total bills for that property at that time was £1,324.90, less £2,166, gave a profit every month of £841.10. Now, that was £420 for me out of thin air. So I just made a £425 regular income from nothing. So my return on investment was infinite, absolutely infinite. And once we did this, both obviously my joint venture partner and me saw this and thought, you know what? Wow, this is really powerful. This is really, really good. So what happens from there? So let's look at the numbers a little bit more. So my joint venture partner was now receiving 7.3% return on investment instead of what he was getting then at 1.5, and I think 1.5 is quite good for a bank at the moment. So he was also getting 50% of any of the capital growth in the property. And what happened next? Well, 2 years later, Worcester City Football Club was relegated. Okay, which meant that a developer, not me, unfortunately, but a developer took over Worcester City Football Club. They bought it, and they've now got exclusive 4 and 5 bedroom houses on that property. So we refinanced this deal, and we refinanced it for £260,000. We only bought it for 187, remember? So we refinanced it for 260. We got all of the 69,000 joint venture money back out on the refinance and a little bit on top as well that we split. So that meant that my joint venture partner and me both have 50% of a house that cost absolutely nothing. Now, who thinks that's a good deal, folks? Give me some feedback, because we both get 50% of the growth moving forwards. And of course, we still get about £400 a month each from that property, which remains to be fully occupied because of the area that it's in. So loads of people coming on now saying, yeah, great deal, great deal. And you know what? That was our first HMO. And when we did that, we thought, wow, what a powerful strategy. Let's do this again. So, of course, my joint venture partner's motivated from that point to say, you know what? Hey, I like this. Let's do it again. So I've got a quick question here. So whose name does the mortgage go on? Joint names. So on that particular property, this was before all of the issues coming up now with Clause 24 tax and all of that. So we didn't know about that then. So we bought this property in joint names. So it's in my joint venture partner's name and my name. So the mortgage goes in both names on that one. But always take tax advice, folks, okay? I'm not a tax advisor. Everybody's tax situation is different. So if you're going into this with somebody else or even on your own, it's very, very important you take the correct professional advice from an accountant before you move forward, because we start with the end in mind. We start with how you want to finish, and you don't want to unravel it halfway through, because HMRC are very, very powerful people, and what we want to do is be as transparent as we possibly can from the beginning, so we make sure that we do get everything set up in the correct way. So that was my first deal. Now I'm going to jump all the way to my last deal, because I want to show you the comparison between the two. So the first deal, I didn't have any money for the deposit, and that's why we took on a joint venture partner, and we paid £187,000 for the property. And this was my last deal. So the photograph here doesn't really do it justice, but we bought the whole street. So everything that you can see on that photo and more, because you can't see them all, we bought in December. In fact, we completed on this on the 22nd of December last year, and we paid £1.1 million for it. Now, this isn't me sort of saying to you, wow, look at what I've got. It's saying to you that I came from being a police officer, earning £1,800 a month, and I had a vision that I wanted to make my life and my family's life better. My first property cost me £187,000, and then I bought 28 flats, which cost me £1.1 million. So a little bit about this. We got these quite a lot cheaper than they were advertised for, using our marketing campaign. So we wrote directly to the owners of the property, asking them if they wanted to sell. And over a period of about 18 months, we negotiated this deal. Now, it did take about 18 months, because initially we didn't have the money. We couldn't afford it. Then over time, we were able to get the money because our portfolio grew, our cash flow was a lot stronger, and we were more connected. So how did we do this? Well, this gives us £9,000 a month in cash flow, just this one deal. I don't know if anybody knows this property. If you do know Worcester, you'll know it quite well. It's a huge, imposing, long row of old sort of Victorian houses with sash windows. It's a listed building. It used to be a school, and it's right in the centre of Worcester. So the cash flow net per month, it brings in £4,773 a month profit net. Now, this deal, you won't be surprised to know, didn't cost me anything at all, because we took on a joint venture partner and we did exactly the same as we did with the first deal. Now, the moral of this story is it doesn't matter how big the deal is, the strategy can remain exactly the same. And we're going to do hopefully something very similar. So our joint venture partner on this deal put all of the deposit in, every penny. So this deal has not cost me anything, but my company, for which I'm a director, owns 50% of the property. What we are going to do with this is something very similar. So over time, we'll have a refurbishment project, we'll get the properties revalued, refinance them, and pay our partner back, which means that we both get 28 flats for free. So I hope that's inspired you folks. Give me some feedback on that. You know, who would do that deal? I mean, don't be scared of the numbers. You know, it's the same deal, it's the same structure. The numbers are just slightly bigger. That's all. So I will also, Karam's saying that my voice is reduced. Perhaps I'm talking a little bit quieter. Do apologise. Hope you can hear me okay. So that's where we've come from, folks. So I hope that kind of inspires you to, to get out there and make some changes. So very quickly, just going to take another slurp of water before we move on to the next slide.
Rick, one interesting question from somebody who's listening in this evening. They're just wondering about your sort of property journey. What's the length of time between the two deals?
3 years.
Wow.
Yeah, 3 years, folks, from start to finish. So 3 years from the first HMO to December just gone, where we purchased this one. So we've achieved all of that in 3 years. We've accrued probably just under a £4 million portfolio in 3 years.
We've got Brenda saying, I think you touched on it, Rick, questioning the sort of size of these deals, because, if you've not done one before, 1.1 million is a big figure for people who maybe are only used to sort of dealing with their own homes and so forth. But what we're saying is that in a relatively short period of time, you can actually move into much bigger deals.
Yeah, absolutely. And Brenda, and please take this, in the correct way. If you have a small target, then you'll achieve small results. There's a lot to be said for that. Now, don't be put off. Now, I know it's a big deal. It may seem that it's out of your grasp, but I just wanted to really show you what you can achieve in a 3-year period. So it's taken me 3 years to get there from starting in HMOs to being able to buy this property in 3 years. Now, I was the same as you, going back 3 years thinking, how on earth am I going to afford that? But we've got big targets, big goals. So, if you set your goal and have a big goal, then hopefully you'll have big results. And that's really the moral of this story. And that's why I don't want to sort of put people off by saying, well, that's what we've got now. It's too big. It's too big. But, start from where I started and work your way up. And over a 3-year period, you can achieve massive, massive things if you think you can. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, I understand the concerns with that, but it's really, something that the next deal for me is going to be double this. It's going to be a £2 million deal. And again, you've got to think big. If you don't think big, then you'll get small results.
Have you found yourself working with a small group of JV partners, Rick? Do people sort of, when you describe how you get your money and the capital back out of the deals, are you then sort of recycling that with the same people?
Predominantly, yes. I mean, we do a joint venture webinar, so I think it's almost go on to a whole new webinar on that. But it's very difficult trying to explain it all in such a short period of time. So joint ventures with partners, we are very, very specific on who we use. And of course, when we get those joint venture partners that you've worked with for several years and you've got proven strategies with them, then yes, we do tend to keep to the same people. But when you get to, when you start networking and you start going out to networking meetings and you start to talk about what you're doing in your strategies, then if you've got a good deal, and the 2 deals I've showed you are really good deals, I mean, I think everybody would agree with that. But if you've got a good deal, you will always find the money. So for those that are on my mentoring program, and they say, my biggest stumbling block is that I haven't got any money, so I don't think I can do this. But that's not correct, folks. Okay, if you find a deal, and if it is genuinely a good deal, you will always find the money. Okay, George, so I'm going to go on now to just do a quick introduction, if that's okay, onto our online mentoring program. Is George still there?
Absolutely.
Yep. Okay, great. So, folks, what I would like to do very quickly is just introduce you to an online program that I run with YPN, so with our partners, and we have a whole structured mentoring program for HMOs that is physically online. So we understand that people are busy and people have got very busy jobs, so they can't always attend a classroom or they can't always attend a training course which would take them away from their job. So we decided that we were going to do this, we were going to make it just as good, but we're going to put it online so people can access it anytime and they can access it from any device. So you can physically do this while you're away on holiday, you can do it while you're in the bath, you can put it on your stereo in your car and listen to the audio as you're traveling along. So what we do here is every month we release a structured content which will help you build your HMO portfolio from the ground upwards. So we cover things like due diligence, licensing, how to negotiate deals, Article 4 planning, finding deals, dealing direct to vendor, and that's how we achieve both of those properties, by dealing direct to vendor, by obtaining a license. We teach you how to write your documentation, how to work with a building team, how to refurbish your property, and how to make sure your property is compliant and lawful and safe, how to attract the best tenants. And we give you on month 4 my HMO systems that I created myself that we actually run our portfolio through. Now, normally we charge £400 for that one course on its own, but we throw this in and we put it in on month 4. We teach you how to manage your tenants going forwards, how to scale your portfolio, and how to refinance your money out of the deal. Now, those two examples I just gave you are examples of how to refinance your money back so that the property doesn't owe you anything, so you've got a free house. How to become passive. We teach you all of our marketing strategies. We We talk about mindset and getting out of your own way. And I hope Brenda doesn't mind. Earlier, we kind of said, look, you are absolutely right, Brenda. You think it's too big, but if you do think it's too big, you'll never do it. If you think that you can achieve it, you will achieve it. And we talk a lot about that on the program. We talk about education and the Housing Law Act, how to evict tenants. And we also offer a live monthly webinar. And that monthly webinar is where everybody on the program gets together, and it's members only, and we just discuss strategy and where people are and how people are moving forwards. Now, we have got some absolutely amazing results from mentees that are on this program. It's been going for quite some time, and we've got some great case studies. We've got people now that are on their 6th and 7th HMO, people that are making £10,000 a month in Oxford. Excuse me, just taking a sip of water. So they're doing exceptionally well. So you've got me to hold your hand with a proven strategy. So what I want to offer to everybody tonight that's on the YPN webinar is that this program normally goes out at £250 a month. Excuse me, folks, just need to take a quick sip of water. Got a bit of a frog in my throat there, do beg your pardon. So we're offering tonight, for anybody that wants to book, a 28-day free trial. So that's full access to the whole system. It's not restricted. You get everything, including the webinar. So if you do book on tonight, you get a 28-day free trial. It won't cost you anything, folks. There is no money up front, okay? You also get a reduced offer, the monthly fee, because it's a subscription, of £189 a month. So for £189 a month, you get to learn a whole strategy of how you can invest into HMOs, turn them into real cash flowing properties. So tonight only, it is 28-day free trial. There's no money down. You don't have to pay anything up front, and you get full access to the whole system for 28 days. If you choose then to stay on, and I'm sure you will, because most people do, all you pay is £189 a month, folks. So that's the deal there, George. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Well, absolutely. YPN, we're a big fan of free trials, as you know. We always start our subscription in the same way. So if you're a reader and you really want to get focused in on HMOs, then I'd sort of think about it as the same as maybe when you started out reading the magazine. Get your 28 days free. See what you think. We know you're going to love it if HMOs are for you and you want to grow that type of business. Then as the content's released on a month-by-month basis, with the ongoing support of monthly webinars, and I believe there's a Facebook group as well, then as long as you're getting value from Rick and his mentorship program, you just leave it in place, pay £189 a month for as long as you feel you're getting value from the course, and let it roll. If it's not for you, within those 28 days, you are able to cancel it. But obviously, it's like we've been talking about. For the level of investment of £189 a month, the results that you can generate, it's very quickly going to pay for itself.
Yes, absolutely. In terms of educational programs, it is one of the strongest, more affordable ones out there at the moment. Folks, if you're interested in booking onto the free trial, there is a link at the bottom. You can see the link. It's www.yourpropertynetwork.co.uk/Gannon. And I think George is going to send that link out to everybody now. All you need to do is you click on that link and it will take you through to a page that looks like this. So on the left-hand side, you'll see a page that's got 3 white boxes. You need to click on the one on the right that says HMO Mentoring Program. You then click on to the green button that's on the right-hand side, and then it will ask you for a coupon code. If you type in the coupon code DISCO, D-I-S-C-O, I'm not going to sing it makes me want to burst out into a song there, DISCO, then that will allow you your discounted 28-day free trial, and then it will allow your discount moving forward. So what we're going to do now, folks, just going to take, before we go on to the Q&A, Going to take a very quick 2-minute breather because we've been talking now for just under an hour. So we've got loads of questions, so don't go away. Going to leave this screen up for you. So I do encourage you to do it, folks. It is free of charge. There are no hidden costs. There is no hidden agenda here. What we really want to do is help you move forward with your journey. So I would encourage you to do it. If you choose not to go ahead with the program in 28 days, you will need to cancel your subscription. Okay, so in 28 days time, you just need to cancel your subscription and then you won't be charged. So George, is it okay if I leave this screen up for a second, have a quick breather, then come back and do the Q&A?
Absolutely.
Okay, folks, so don't go away. Please don't go away. There's loads of great questions. Just going to go and get another glass of water and be back in literally just 5 minutes. Okay, I think that was a quick 5 minutes, actually. Are you still there, George? Okay, I think George is still going out and getting some.
I am here. Sorry, it just got me out. I switched my microphone off.
That's okay.
Yeah. Rick, we've got loads of questions coming through, and I think it really just highlights, what the challenges with covering HMOs as a strategy in one webinar. I think you did an amazing job of highlighting what's possible with the 2 case studies, but to get to a point where you're able to do these deals, you really do need a lot more in-depth knowledge, and what a great way to deliver it online.
Absolutely, and that's exactly why we chose the format of putting it online, because it's so flexible. There's a couple of questions. Phil's asking, are these parts released monthly? So yes, Phil. So basically what happens is we don't give you the whole 12 months content at once, because people will tend to dip into the bits that they want to, and they don't do it in the structured way. So the reason that our mentees are so successful is they literally just follow the instructions. So they follow the recipe. So what will happen is when you subscribe for your 3-month trial, you get month 1, which is 8 hours classroom content on our HMO Discovery Day. So you get all of that included on month 1. So you get the whole 8-hour Discovery Day with Mark Barrett, the tax advisor, and Morgan Stewart, a mortgage advisor. And then 28 days later, you get released month 2. And then you follow all of the videos on month 2, complete the tasks, and then etc. And it's a 12-month program. And people that finish the 12 months can either stay on, because it's a continually update the content, so every month we update new content, etc. So people generally just stay on anyway. But the great thing is there's no contract, so you can cancel at absolutely any time you want to. So if you get to the point where you're into 6 months and you find that you've done what you needed to do and you've got a great portfolio, and it does happen, then if you find that you don't need the education anymore, then you can simply just cancel your contract with no questions asked. So I hope that answers your questions, Phil. We have got loads of people subscribing, so that's great. It's really good to see people taking action. And you know what? In order to be successful, folks, you've got to take action. You've got to put yourself out there.
And another advantage of remaining a member, Rick, is, what a great way to stay in touch with people that are doing sort of similar things to you and got, similar knowledge, might be looking for joint venture partners to bring different resources to the deal. Everybody's staying and communicating together.
Yes, absolutely. And, a lot of our success is down to networking. And I do talk a lot about that on the program. When people meet me, networking is so, so important because it's about surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals, and it is very, very important. I also forgot to mention, folks, we've got a live Facebook forum as well, only for mentees. So it's really, really popular. It is a closed group. You won't be able to get on it unless you're part of the program. And you also have my direct email. So if you ever have any issues or any deals that you want me to help you with, then you have a direct contact with me via my private email address as well. So yeah, it is very, very powerful, George.
Great, Rick. I know you said you'd happily stay on for a bit of Q&A, Rick, and we have got loads of questions, some of which are a bit technical, and we may need to say that really what you need to do to get that answered is to join the mentorship program to get the real in-depth answers that we're looking for. But there's certainly some that I think it'd be great to touch on. Are you happy to do a bit of that?
I'm happy. We've still got literally hundreds of people on the webinar, so I'm here to help people, so I can stay for as long as people want me. Very quickly, George, Sajjad is asking if they can start investing whilst on the program, or do they have to wait until they finish? Sajjad, you've got to invest straight away. So we give you all the tools you need on month 1 to start your marketing campaign. I give you my letters, the letters that I actually used that gave me my first 11 houses. And I give you those so you can go out and use them yourself. That's all included, Sajjad. So what we encourage people to do is take action straight away. Okay, George, let's do some questions.
Okay. So Emma's asking about sort of what you set aside, what you budget for doing a renovation. Is it sort of you've got a sort of price per room in mind of what you're happy to spend, or?
It's a really good question, and it's a very popular question because there is no one size fits all. So I can tell you that we've got properties that are identical, almost on the same road, and some properties will cost maybe £30,000, where the other property across the road will cost maybe £20,000, because it really depends on what needs doing to the property. So I can't say that there is a proven formula in order to turn a house into a HMO. So what we do is we look for the property to see if it's suitable first. We look to see if it's in the suitable area. And then what we'll do is we'll take our builder to the house and we'll get quotes based on the local the local amenity standards, which is the council document for HMOs in your area. So that document's available online, and it will tell you what you need to do to convert your property. It will tell you about the room sizes, it will tell you about the fire safety, it will tell you about kitchen sizes and communal area sizes. So you use that as your plan. Go to the property with your builder then will use the plan, he will look at it and give you a quote based on the property and the works needed doing. So I'm really sorry that I can't sort of say, yeah, it's going to cost you 20 or 30,000, because, I could say that and you'd be happy, but then it might come in at a lot more. So I always encourage people to take their builder with them and get the work quoted for before you go ahead and do it.
Sajjad's asking sort of where this works geographically. Rick, he's saying, is it really possible to do this kind of thing down south where or in London, where things might be a little bit more expensive, or do you really have to be looking at the sort of the maybe slightly more affordable areas of the UK?
It works absolutely everywhere. So you just have to ask yourself the question, do areas of London have HMOs? And the absolute answer of that is yes. So that tells you that, yes, of course, it works absolutely everywhere. Now, obviously, London's going to be very popular because it's London. We wouldn't be going to the Hebrides and doing HMOs in the Hebrides because, you wouldn't get any tenants. So the areas have got to be well populated. They've got to have good transport links, city centre locations. And I think I mentioned earlier that I've got a guy on the programme who's just completed on his 4th HMO in Oxford, and Oxford prices aren't to be sniffed at. He's paying some really significant prices there, and he's doing exceptionally well, and he's got his income up to £10,000 a month doing this in Oxford. So yeah, absolutely, you can do this all over the country.
Trevor's saying that he's had a look at financing HMOs, but he's found it difficult dealing with mortgage brokers in order to be able to get the finance. I guess this again, we come back to the fact that it's really about educating yourself so that you can sidestep that by working with JV partners, Rick.
Okay, so what we do is we help our mentees, and when you join our program, you have full access to our power team, and our power team consists of a legal advisor. Now, don't get me wrong, you will have to pay them to do this for you, but we give you access to them. So we've got a legal advisor that can help you with your contracts. You'll have to pay them to have your contracts done, but of course we give you access to the person. We've got a mortgage advisor, a mortgage specialist that will give you free advice. Who's part of the group, and they're in the Facebook group. All you have to do is tag them in. And we've got our tax specialist and my finance director, who is also in the group, that will give you specialist property tax advice. So we kind of cater for all of that under one umbrella. Jeff's asking, I think you've got your caps on, Jeff. I don't know if you're shouting at me or not. Jeff's saying, what about the new legislation that is being introduced for HMOs? For example, minimum bedroom sizes. Yeah, that's fine, Jeff. They're not new minimum bedroom sizes. So the national standard for a single occupation room throughout the whole of the country is 6.52 square meters. Now, at the moment, that's discretionary. So the HMO officer can allow you to have a room that's smaller than that, provided there are other shared amenities in the house, like a living room. What's going to happen when the new licensing regulations come into force, which is likely to be in the spring? That's going to be taken away. The discretionary is going to be taken away. So the properties will have to be 6.52 square meters for single occupation. So that's all part and parcel of the due diligence, Jeff. So when you look for properties, that's one of the things that you need to be very, very aware of. And we cover that in month 1 of the course, because it's very important that you buy the right property. Otherwise, you're going to have a house that you can't use, or you can repurpose the inside of the house and turn the rooms into bigger rooms. So it's not a massive issue. It's always been there. It's just the fact now that the discretion side of things are going to be taken away.
Andrew's asking about the sort of facilities that you provide for your tenants. Rick, are you a fan of en suites, or is it shared bathrooms, or what do you do in that regard?
We like to do en suites. Now, if we're all very similar people, aren't we? And if I was to move into a HMO, I wouldn't really want to be sharing a communal bathroom. So we like to put en suites into rooms. That comes obviously at a cost. But the great thing is that the rooms sell for a premium. So we can charge £50 a month more for an ensuite room. And the tenants stay longer because ensuite rooms are quite hard to get. However, certain areas in the country, if you put an ensuite room in your HMO, they are singly banding that room for purposes of the council tax. That means that that room will be banded separately under Band A of council tax, rather than just having the council tax for the whole house. So you need to be aware of that. If your VOA, your valuations office, if they are singly banding, then it probably would mean that I would look to not installing en suites and going more along the lines of shared bathrooms. So that's something again that we cover with the due diligence. It's quite an important thing, because if you do a 6-bedroom all ensuite HMO, it may mean in your area that that bedroom has got to pay its own council tax. So we do have properties like that. All we do is charge it back to the tenant, because at the end of the day, it's their property and they pay it. You know, they get a single person living allowance as well. So they pay about £70 council tax per room. So something to be very aware of, but the rooms are more attractive because they are en suite. How much do you charge per room? Dell's saying. Dell, it really does depend on the size of the room and the location. So on average, a good size double room, so anything over sort of 11 square meters with a double bed, we are looking at about £400 per room. Now, this is in my area. Obviously, it's going to be different throughout the country. So in order to establish what to charge with your room rates, there are lots of different things you can do. Probably one of the best things to do is to drop into your local letting agent and explain to them that you're interested in starting a HMO. You may want them to manage it for you. So can you give an indication of the average room rates for the area? And that's exactly what we do, Del. So I hope that answers that question for you.
Andrew's asking if there's any difference between the tenancy agreements you have in place within an HMO as opposed to a single let.
No, none at all. So we use an AST, which is an assured short hold tenancy agreement, and that is the only agreement you should use in a HMO and a single let. So they are exactly the same. Now, you may have heard of licenses and licenses to occupy and things like that. They're not appropriate. So an AST really, if it's the occupant's only or principal residence, if they are not a company, if the landlord isn't present, and if they have exclusive occupation over at least a part of the property, then you have to give them an AST. That's the only legally binding contract that you can give them, which is covered under the Housing Act. So a license would be for a company or for somebody that's only staying for maybe a couple of days and it's not their only or their principal residence.
Lewis wants to know if an unlicensed HMO has to conform to the same sort of building regs and standards as a licensable HMO.
Sorry, George. I was actually reading another question there. That was terrible of me. Could you repeat that, please?
Lewis is just wondering about, the difference when an HMO is of a size or when it has to become licensed. Do unlicensed ones have to conform to the same building standards?
Absolutely. So very much so. So we have a duty of care to our tenants, whether the property needs to be licensed or not. You still need to make sure that the property is safe. So it will still need to be fireproof. And of course, you've still got the health and safety standards, regulations that you need to adhere to. And of course, the HMO management regulations as well. So we've got a duty of care to make sure that we keep the rooms clean and tidy, the communal areas free of junk, nicely decorated, the gardens well kept, etc. So we don't cut corners, folks. So don't think that if your property doesn't need to be licensed, you don't need to provide a safe house. Well, you absolutely do. We still do them to exactly the same standard. And what we like to do is future-proof every property anyway, because it's more than likely that all HMOs will need to be licensed going forwards in years to come. So we get them done now, and they're safe, and then we can sleep well at night. Indra's asking, is the £189 a month including VAT? Yes, Indra, that does include VAT. That's the only price you pay. Emma's asking for a 6-bed HMO. Do I need a hard-wired smoke alarm and fire doors? I think we just covered that, Emma. Yes, you do. So if your 6-bedroom HMO is over 3 floors, you will need a full fire alarm system with a panel. Okay, if it's not over 3 floors and it's a shared house to a group of students, then you can use what we call a grade D system, which is a mains interlinked hardwired smoke system. So yes, you absolutely do. In terms of fire doors, then if it's a shared property on individual ASTs, then yes, you will need to put fire doors on every risk room. Now, the law just states that if it's a shared property on one tenancy, so if it's a group of students and they all know each other and they're not on individual contracts, then they may allow you to be a little bit more lax with your fire safety. But there's a document that we share. It's on the internet. It's called LACORS, LACORS, and that will give you all the fire safety standards that you need to adhere to for your properties. Not just HMOs, it covers all rental properties.
Someone's asking, Rick, if on the course you take a look at where an appropriate investment area might be or how to find the best investment area.
Yes, we do absolutely do that. We help you and we give you all of our tips and tricks on where to look and what to look for, and you get all of that on month one. So that's all included on the free trial and the classroom content. So yes, absolutely, we help with that. And if anybody ever struggles, and if there's something that perhaps they need an answer to that's not included in the content, then all they have to do is just send me an email directly, and I can help them through that. But yeah, we cover absolutely everything.
And we've got somebody messaged in to ask if this strategy is appropriate if you're not currently a homeowner yourself. Would you be able to go ahead and start working towards generating income that would help with that situation?
Yeah, so we cover what we call the rent-to-rent strategy, which means that you don't have to buy a property. You can rent it off somebody else. It can even be an existing HMO, and we can rent it for a period of maybe 3 years off the existing owner, and then we can use that cash flow to save up enough money for deposits to buy our own. We've got rent-to-rent properties that we haven't paid any money for at all. They're already converted, and we make up to £1,800 a month per property in net cash flow. That's profit on a property that we don't own, and a property that hasn't costed anything to do. And we teach that strategy. We teach people how to do that without using any of their own money at all. And it's a really good strategy to start getting that cash flow in every month, to build it up, to eventually have enough money then to buy their own property through using your own deposits that you've generated yourself. So yeah, absolutely.
We are getting loads of questions about the content that's covered on the course, Rick. I don't know if it would be a help maybe just to flick back a slide and maybe give us an idea of what you get in the first month, in your free month.
Yeah, so the first month is, a lot of people have probably heard about our HMO Discovery Day. So we recorded our last HMO Discovery Day and by professional videographers, and we've released that in stage processes for month one. So month one, which is the free 28 days, is a video recording of me, a guy called Alex Seary, who was our guest speaker, Mark Barrett, our tax advisor, and Morgan Stewart, our mortgage advisor, and we cover the whole HMO strategy from start to finish in a day. So we cover dealing direct to vendors, how to start your marketing campaign, how to target your area, what to look for in a HMO, what to look for in an area, and how to start your business properly from the ground upwards. And that's all included in month one. So month one is a really intense day course on how to start your business from scratch. So you get all of that on the free 28 days. And then the preceding months, we go into deeper dives. So we cover, we go back to month one, but we dissect it more and we discuss it more intricately and more in depth. And that's how we stretch the program into what's turned into a very successful mentoring program. So yeah, I mean, month one covers everything in a snapshot.
Am I right in saying that Alex, when he started, he specialised in rent to rent for exactly the sort of reasons that we were talking about a few minutes ago, and that it's a great way to start generating this income without necessarily actually having to buy the properties?
Yeah, so Alex has done exceptionally well. I mean, Alex also was in the police service. I didn't know him, but he was a custody officer, and he, without using any of his own money, in the first 18 months, has managed to earn enough money to leave the police, and he's not used any of his own money, and it's all through doing joint venture deals with other people. So he's found the property. He's done almost what we said at the very beginning on the first deal, and he's just replicated that. So he's found the property, he's brought joint venture partners in, and he splits the profit 50-50. So he's got a great portfolio now. He doesn't need to work, and he's done it all without using any of his own money. So yeah, Alex joins us with month one and hosts month one for us. Yeah.
I know that Alex, took a slightly different path from you, Rick, and that you mentioned that you had a career break and sort of took a run at it that way. Alex, when he started, he was doing it alongside his full-time job.
Yes, Alex was. You can do this. I mean, the great thing about this program is that it's so easy to do in your own time. So you don't need to take time off work. You can literally, because they're videos, so you can upload them onto your iPad. You can use your mobile phone, or you can use your computer. So you can choose when to do it. You can choose a time that suits you. And the great thing is, if you don't get it the first time, all you need to do is rewind the video. Rewind? Do you still rewind? I don't know if you do that these days. You can go back to the beginning of the video and start again as many times as you want to. So that's the beauty of doing it online, because it's there for you all the time, and you can dip back, into previous content as many times as you need to.
And what a great time of year actually to have access to 28 days free, Rick, because I know a lot of us have got some holidays booked, and whilst we could spend some time reading some John Grisham or whatever else we picked up at the airport, wouldn't it be great to use the hotel Wi-Fi when it's appropriate and get some real learning done?
Absolutely. If you want to listen to me whilst you're next to the pool in Spain, make sure you give me a tag and say, I'm next to the pool with Rick Gannon, because that makes me feel great. And lots of people do that. It's quite funny. When people read my online books, I say, no, I'm just lying next to the pool with Rick Gannon. It's really, really good. But yeah, all joking aside, it really is that versatile that people can do it wherever they want to, wherever in the world that they want to.
So I just want to reiterate, Rick, the course is normally £250 a month, but if you enter that special discount code, DISCO, capital letters DISCO, when you take out your free trial, then that's reduced to £189 per month. That you only have to pay. You're not committed to pay. You only pay that when you get the value from the content and you want to dig further into the strategy.
Yes. So what happens is, after the free 28-day trial, if you no longer want to continue with the rest of the program, you will need to cancel your subscription. And then for those that want to stay, and I know that everybody will stay because it really is that good, then you just continue with your subscription, and you'll be charged £189 a month. So every month you will get released new content. We get anything from 8 to 15 20-minute videos per month with different strategies, and each one has got a task on it at the end. All you have to do is follow what we do on the videos, and that is the path to the success that the mentees are doing. So all we just provide the recipe, everybody else just needs to follow it.
Rick, Sajjad just asked me to clarify a point, and it was me that wasn't clear, Sajjad. I apologise. This strategy, you can absolutely implement it whilst you're still running a full-time job. Okay, so that's exactly what we were saying about Alex. He wasn't able to give up his job immediately. He has replaced his income now, but he was implementing aspects of this strategy and getting started whilst he was still full-time with the police. Rick, what would you say is sort of a minimum amount of time you're going to have to set aside a week to effectively get going?
Yeah, so you're going to need half a day a week to be able to make this into something. So, it's going to have to be at least half a day, preferably a whole day if you can do that. But everybody, at some point can find that time. And, like anything we do in life, you've got to make that effort. You've got to take that. You've got to put that foot forward, and you've got to be proactive with it. So it doesn't all have to be at once. So if you've got a spare day, it could be a weekend, it could be a couple of hours of an evening, that's fine. But as long as you need to put at least half a day into this every week, because it is about taking action. It's about following the tips that we talk about on the online videos. And if you don't take that action, then of course nothing's going to change. So yeah, you're going to need at least half a day a week to be able to do this.
Jad says, great, he's finding tonight really motivational. I know a lot of people are, given the amazing case studies that you shared, Rick. With those two properties in mind, were there any sort of big challenges that stick in the mind that that came up that you had to overcome with those two?
Oh, the second one, yeah. I haven't got enough time to tell you about the challenges because it was such a big deal. The due diligence on the second property, it came to about £30,000 in due diligence before we even bought it, because it was such a big property. There's so many things we have to consider. We need to consider the existing use of the premises. Is it okay to use it as a HMO? Because although they're flats, it's still licensed as a HMO. Also, the damp report, the survey, etc. On the smaller properties, not so much. On the smaller properties, the biggest challenge we were faced with is doing them before Article 4 planning direction came in. So Article 4 planning direction came in, which meant that we couldn't just turn a house into a HMO. We had to apply for planning permission. But if we did it before the direction came in, then we didn't need planning permission. So our biggest challenge back then was doing it in time in order to get grandfather rights. In terms of other challenges, no, not really. It's not difficult, as long as we follow the legislation, it's quite an easy process.
Okay, I'm just having a quick look through, guys, to see if we've got any other questions that we can pick out for Rick. I mean, a lot of the focus is on finding JV partners and so forth. And we'll ask Rick for some quick thoughts on that in a second. But in all honesty, it's one of those subjects where we could do a whole webinar on it and still only really scratch the surface. That's the purpose of the mentoring program, in that it delivers so much content, but gives you the time to access it when it's most convenient for you. Rick, have you got any thoughts on, if you were starting out, where you look for JV partners and how you start to establish those relationships?
Yeah, so what I encourage you to do, what happens is when you join the mentoring program, you'll get an automatic email with a link to our Facebook group. So you need to click on the link, and then that will take you into our Facebook group. Now, there are quite a lot of members in there. It's a closed group, but that's your initial networking. So in order to find money, you've got to network. You've got to get out there, and you've got to do things differently. So you've got to surround yourself with like-minded individuals. So we encourage people to come into our group and start the networking process, introduce themselves, say hi, they're a new member, and start to interact within that group, because that group of, some of them are so successful, and they can absolutely help people moving forwards as well as I can. So not only that, I always encourage people to go to local networking events around the country. Some of them are free, some of them you have to pay for. You can surround yourself with other people that are either looking for deals or people that have got money and they're looking to invest it into deals. So it's absolutely the best way to find money, and that's all we did. So all of our money from our joint venture partners have come from our networks over the years. We haven't had to go out looking for it. I know that if we found a great deal tomorrow, I could fund the deal quite quickly using our network. So networking is so powerful.
We've got quite an interesting one coming from Tara, Rick. She says that the other day, I'm just briefly reading her question, she was accosted by a very angry neighbour-to-be when somebody in the next property along from an HMO that she was developing found out what she was doing. Is that something that you've come across, and how do you mitigate that?
Yes, absolutely. It does happen. And I'm looking at Tara's question, and Tara's put via the planning department. So I'm guessing, Tara, you had to apply for planning permission with this. So let's just go back to the beginning. If you don't need planning permission, so if it's an area that's not in Article 4, then you can do this under permitted development. So the neighbours can shout and scream as much as they want to. What we do is we try and involve them. If it comes to that, we try and involve them all the way through the process. And what we do is we show them photographs of our existing properties, and we show them how good the standard is. We also appease them by telling them that we are only looking for working professionals, which we do, and we invite them into the property during the refurbishment process, and we show them exactly what we're doing. Now, I can categorically say that every person that has either objected to planning permission or has challenged me directly have since come back to me and said, we have less problems now as a HMO than we did have when there was a single family in there. And they are over the moon. Now, almost to the point where last week, one of the neighbours came out to see me and said to me, will you let me know if you ever sell your property? Because if you do, we are going to move. Now, that's a great accolade, because what they're saying to me now is that they're so pleased with the neighbours that they want to stay there. If we sold it to somebody else, then they would move in case they put bad people in there again. So what I encourage you to do, Tara, is yes, they can object. Very often there's little they can do to stop it from going through, but I really try and work with them rather than working against them. And I'm very transparent from the beginning. So we, really want to work with them. What we don't want to do is upset the neighbours. And, we want to just make sure and reassure them that everything we do is going to make the property better, not worse.
Well, great, Rick. I know that that we've got we've gone through a load of questions there, and the case studies you shared were amazing. What I would say, guys, is that obviously we run webinars like this when we can, but nonetheless, the amount of time that we have, we just can't get the content in for you that something like Rick's program can provide. So if you want to really get to the bottoms of establishing JV relationships, understanding about the planning changes that Rick's been describing, looking at all the bar regs and so forth, the only place that we know that you're actually going to get that information in depth and access to it whenever you like is Rick's online mentoring. So give it a go for 28 days. Get yourself along to yourpropertynetwork.co.uk/Gannon. Use the code DISCO to make sure you get your discount. If it's for you, great. Let Rick help you build a business. If not, you can cancel. Really, all I wanted to do is just reinforce the point that the amount of information you've got and the time access to it, it is really quite a unique product. So, Rick, thanks a lot for sharing everything with us this evening. We've been on the call 90 minutes, as we said. Did you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you so much. We've still got literally hundreds of people still on the webinar. So, folks, I just wanted to thank you. I know that your time is valuable, and you've been with us for 90 minutes. I want to thank you. I hope that you found it really useful. If you want to reach out to me, please just join the program. It's free for 28 days. You've got nothing to lose. You will get value from it. Any questions or anything from there, you can contact me through Facebook. You get my email address. You can contact me directly through the email. Really looking forward to working with those, and we have loads of people that have signed up tonight, George. So great work. It is about taking action, folks. If you want to do things differently, then you've got to make a change. Okay, you've got to do things differently, and this is the first step. So I can't wait to start working with those people. And for those that are not quite sure, then that's okay too. If I can do anything for you, then you can reach out to me, and hopefully I can help you move forwards. But it is the offers that we do, they're only either available in the classroom or online. So the discounted offer is only available this evening. The link will be taken down at midnight tonight, folks. So you've got until midnight to be able to log on, but after that it will go up to the normal price without the 28-day trial.
Rick, thanks so much for everything this evening. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, George, and thank you, everybody else. I'm going to leave the link up for those that still want to log on. And good night, everybody. Thanks so much.
Good night.